at the state lines, just crossing over to Minnesota, I never in my life seen so many eagles flying down this mountain. If I wasn't in my right mind, I probably would have grabbed one. Minneapolis, Minnesota, the buildings, the architect there is so complex that it marvels me to this very day, because the scenery was just so beautiful, and the nature of this place was astonishing. And even though it was during the time of COVID, not that many people were allowed, I did my best to explore this place. Leaving Minneapolis, going back to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Soon, about maybe 3-4 hours later, there was an announcement that the bus driver made, and she said that whoever's going to Chicago or Milwaukee to get off and go to another bus, which was parked right in front of us. So I was like, all right. I got off, and probably like another guy got off with me too, and we wanted to get on another bus. I was like, okay, it's kind of odd, and not to really think of it looking at my I didn't look at my the transfer and slip that they gave us. Just, you normally buy the ticket and that's it, but I learned a lesson to always look at my transfer. So going to Milwaukee, and I'm like, wait a minute. The bus driver was going back to the places where I originally passed. Like, okay, so I'm looking at Wisconsin Dells. I'm okay, we are already past this area, then different counties in Wisconsin. I'm like, are we going back, or did I get on the wrong bus? So we stopped at Tomah, Wisconsin, and there was like a gas station there, like about 2 hotels there. And so I asked the bus driver, like, are we going to Milwaukee? Because it's like the opposite direction. It's like, no, we're going to Minneapolis. I'm like, what? My mouth dropped, like my whole chin just hit the floor. I'm like, wait, the lady that I just got off the bus, she told me to get on your bus because we were supposed to go back to Milwaukee. He said, no, you must have misunderstood. I'm like, I didn't get sarcastic. I just kind of like, oh my goodness, and what should I do? So the guy said, you have to make a complaint. If I were to stay at that little area, that's when the next bus will come that will go to Chicago and Milwaukee. I got my stuff, only had like a book bag with me, and I also had like a shopping bag and stuff, with my shoes, and the little stores there in Mall of America. I didn't do much spending, but I just like to venture off and explore. I found the hotel, and I just stayed a night. And while I was there at the hotel, I was just praying so hard. Like, I don't know if I should buy another ticket or should make a complaint and tell them like maybe a refund or something. I didn't know what to do. This never happened to me before. Knowing that there was really no one else to get me in Tomah, Wisconsin. That was about maybe, I think, 3 or 4 hours, I don't know, from Milwaukee. Because that next day, which was a Monday, I had to go to work. So I was praying to God, like, please give me this ride. Like, I was at the mercy of the bus driver, and it depends on if he had another seat for me. I'm not too sure how many seats are in the Greyhound bus, maybe 45 or 55. I'm not entirely too sure about that. So I written up a complaint, and I wouldn't even call it a complaint. It was more of me saying it was a misunderstanding, and I accept all responsibilities. Maybe it was my fault and not the bus driver. I didn't want that bus driver to get in trouble with management or anything like that. And I didn't really get an email back from them until probably like the next day. And just that night, as I was laying down, I was just praying to God, like, I just hope that there is a seat left for me, because I had to go to work that morning. So at 3:50 a.m., my alarm clock went off, and I got up, just ran out the place. I asked the bus driver, and I showed him my receipt, and I told him everything. Like, I accidentally got off the wrong bus. I listened to my bus driver, and maybe there was a misunderstanding. And the bus driver told me, I have to see what I can do. And I was like, all right. So I just stood back. Something in my mind was telling me to just get on the bus and just pretend like he didn't see you. Although he was just in the store, I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Like it was like a wrestle. Like I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to like listen to that because that would have been wrong, and I would have to really get out, and then I'd just be stuck there. So I just stood there, still praying in my head, like just. And he was just on the bus going back and forth, just counting the seats left because there was another group that he had to pick up in Wisconsin Dells, which was like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours away. So I'm just like, oh goodness, and I'm just hesitating, like, okay, is there any room left? So he's marching back and forth, and then people was just boarding on, and I'm just sitting back there lonely. And the guy looked at me. He said, we have one seat left. You can get on. I was like, oh, I was so relieved. I'm like, yes, thank you, God. So I got on, sat next to this lady, and she was sleeping, so I tried not to, like, you know, move around so much. So I just stood there stiff. And I was making sure, like, okay, this is the right bus that's going to my destination. So we passed all these areas. And once I see from a distance the U.S. Bank, I was like, okay, I'm finally home. And then getting off the bus, I thanked the bus driver, shook his hand, and I was on my way to work. Made it on time too. I still think about that to this very day because even though this was March of this year, who would have known that all the people on the bus had their seats reserved, and it looked like it was full, but it was only one spot reserved, and that was for me. That was God. That was God all the way.